5-day FDP on challenges in adapting machine learning towards 5G, 6G communications. Welcome all. I take the honor in inviting our guest speaker of the session, Dr. V. Uday Shankar Garu, who works as an assistant professor at SRM University, Amaravati, Andhra Pradesh. Uday Shankar Garu completed his PhD from the Department of ECE, Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore in August 2017 and did his MTech from IIT Roorkee during 2002-2004. He has 4+ years of industry work experience. He was an IOTS scholar through Hindu Hitachi Technical Training Program, Japan during the period July 2008 to December 2008 at the Hitachi Communication Technologies, Hitachi Limited, where he underwent training on standardization activity in enterprise and strategy establishment. He was an executive council member for IITE Bangalore for the year 2008-2009 and ExCom member for IEEE IISc student branch for the year 2010-2012. He is also the chairperson for IEEE IISc student branch for the years 2012 and 13. He represented IEEE IISc student branch in IEEE University Partnership Program Leaders Summit during October 2012 at Seattle, Washington, USA. He was leading Smart City initiative by IEEE Bangalore section during 2015-16. He is an IEEE senior member and IEEE HKN member. His research interests include game theory and optimization, machine learning algorithms, cognitive decision-making systems design, baseband signal processing for advanced wireless communications, small cell networks, self-organizing networks design using evolutionary biology concept, cooperative communication, design of algorithms for vehicular-to-vehicular communication, machine-to-machine communication, information theory and coding, IoT and smart grid. Today, sir is going to talk to us on the topic, a survey of game theory and AI-enabled techniques for advanced wireless communications. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, all. This is a very interesting topic titled A Survey of Game Theory and AI-enabled technique in advanced wireless communication. My flow of topic is like this. First, I'll introduce, then I'll go for the what is game theory, then I'll talk about the machine learning, then I'll talk about, I'll introduce about the wireless communication, what is the motivation behind adapting game theory as well as the machine learning problems. Then we'll look at the physical layer application related to machine learning, MAC layer application related to machine learning. Then I'll be presenting on the resource allocation problem, which is my thesis work on the game theory application, which involves part of the machine learning also. This is the flow of my talk. So as a human being, generally we have two intentions always, most of the time. One is the prediction and decision making. Suppose, for example, if you look at this, suppose you want to go from your home to college. First you wake up and you think about which way you have to go, whether you can go by which route you will go. So this depends on the how long it takes, and also you will consider the how long it takes to reach from your location to that of the institute. So traffic, things, conditions, everything. As generally you travel over the various routes, so you get to know that what is the traffic scenario, these things. This is the something we can call it say experience. So this is based on the we'll make the first decision we'll make on the experience. So second one is the learning. So here through the learning you are gaining experience. The third one is the current available information. Based on this we will make a decision. Whereas if you look at the machines also need some experience to make a decision. That's the here experience we can give in the form of the data. From the data it learns to make a decision and make a prediction. The question arises here, why I want to give my decision capability and prediction capability to the machine? So this is a very important thing to answer here. So for example, if you consider, if you want to predict the disease of a particular disease, whether a person has affected with the COVID or not by a single doctor. So there are 1,000 members are there, based on the symptoms and everything, he make a decision. On an average per hour, he can make a decision around some 10. So for the 8 hours, so he can make around the 80, but there are 1,000 applicants are there, which is difficult to make a decision. So if we give this decision making capability to that of a machine, it can make not the 1,000 but the many, as many as possible. 10,000 also you can make in a, machine can make in a 8 hours duration. That is the reason we go for the machines. The other thing is, whenever the complexity of data, so there is a, so the decision making which depends on the data has a various dimensions. So one of the several dimensions are there. In this data which is represented by it has its own features. So if number of features are increasing, automatically there is an interrelationship among the features also increases, which is difficult for a human to make a decision. That's the reason we give this decision making capability to that of a machine. Now look here, what is the game theory? This also we need to understand. So first I'll talk about machine learning. I'll come for the game theory. Machine learning. So in general sense, we can say it's a programming computers so that they can learn from data. That's what it will do. So what it's doing here, it just once we have the learning the data, so it will make a decision and it will make a some prediction. Now this other thing comes into picture, game theory. So look here. So here this machine is making, it's an individual machine. If there is a scenario where the machines has to interact with each other, in that case we can think about the game theory modeling. This game theory is used to model the interaction among the intelligent or rational players or a devices. This is the interaction involves here. For example, if you want to play the game, so chess game is there. So you can see in the chess game there are two players are there. So player 1 and player 2 is there. So player 1 make a decision, the step which is called the action. How he make a action depends on the player 2 action also. How much reward he gets depends on the player 2, what he makes the decision, what he has already made the action. So similarly, this interaction will also happen. In this way, interaction will comes here. For example, robotics games, there are robo games will play, or we can think about the cars, so driverless cars, that also we can model it as a game model, and also with that of learning also we can incorporate it. That's the reason I combine here game theory and with the machine learning. So if you look the game theory, as I already said, game has a, it is represented by a one tuple, which is the some set of players are there, which is known as a K, and each player make a set of actions will be there. Some actions he will choose. These actions are known as a strategy. That's a strategy set for the each player, ith player. Then UI is the utility, how much benefit I will get. It's a measure. So some measure you will give for the benefit, and it is represented by a utility. What game has to do is each player has to choose the action in such a way that he has to maximize his utility. That's what his every individual players think. Now the thing comes here, how this utility makes important. The utility, if you see, the utility affected by the two things. One is the your action and also the actions of the all other players. So that's the reason this interaction will be modeled in this utility function. Now there are two types of games are there. One is the non-cooperative game and cooperative game. The non-cooperative game, for example, if you see the I can say that non-cooperative game, which I can say two companies are there. Two companies which they want to sell a product. So they are fixing the price so that they will maximize their sales or revenue. So in that case, what they will do is they will choose accordingly. Their price will be changed. So this is comes as a non-cooperative model. Here, two companies are competing for a particular market to sell something. It's a non-cooperation. Whereas there is a cooperative game also there. It's like a team, a group which achieve the common goal. So this comes in the cooperative game. There are two types of games, non-cooperative and cooperative. This whole game theory is it's the iterative process of arriving solution. It takes some time. It will play the game continuously, and outcome is the set of strategies for the all players that come as the outcome. The resulted outcome at the point where it reaches to the equilibrium point. That equilibrium point is known as the Nash equilibrium point. At this point, Nash equilibrium point, when all players are using this Nash equilibrium point, if any one player deviates or use other than that said action from the Nash equilibrium point, then his utility will be reduced. So that's the reason all will play the Nash equilibrium point only. This is the thing. So mainly used in the resource allocation problem in case of for the wireless communication. So here, as we know, bandwidth and power is the very important precious component in the resources for this wireless communication. So it uses the bandwidth and power for the resource allocation. Still, some more thing I want to talk here. If you look this our wireless communication, which is modeled by the physical layer, MAC layer, network layer, and upper layers are there. If you see here, physical layer, there is a jamming game will be played by the people, and MAC layer is very interesting. So multiple access game. This is known as the multiple access game. In this multiple access game, how we can access the particular sub channel? That's a one type of game we can form. In this MAC layer only, you can most of the work happens here. It's a decision making layer where this resource allocation will be, most of resource allocation algorithm can be done here. So this is what I'm going to talk here. More about this I'll talk later. So now one more thing I want to talk here, spectrum auctioning. We know about spectrum auctioning. This is also auction theory, also part of a game. So here what happens is everyone announcement of action takes place. There is an auctioneer is there. He looks for the announcement from the auction. Then he submits its bids. Then this auctioneer, so what he does is that two things are there here. Auctioneer, what he does is he just announces the auction. So then what bidder will do is he looks at the auction is announced or not. Then he submits the bid. Once he submits the bid, what happens is the auctioneer collects the bid from the all the players, all the bidders. Then what he do is he will compute the some auction result. So who is the winning the bid or not, and he inform this to the particular bidders, one of the bidders. That bidder will, what he will do is whether he won or not, he will see, and he tries to buy the spectrum. So here this auctioneer will sell the spectrum here. You can see here there is a one auctioneer is there, and there is a multiple bidders are also there. This is the economic model. The game theory itself evolved from the economic theory. This we adopted in the wireless communication. So this one of the game model, auction theory model, which is used for the spectrum auctioning. The same thing we can use for the coal mine auctioning, or we can use for the online selling prices, online auctioning also we can use. For this talk, I'll be talking about the resource allocation for the small cell network. There, how we are going to allocate the resource so that its user requirements are satisfied. That I'll be getting back. Now coming to machine learning types. There are machine learning types. There are four types are there: supervised learning, then unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So here this type is divided based on the amount of supervision which is provided on the particular learning algorithm. You see here in the general case, the traditional computers, what happens, traditional programming, there is it gives some rules. Rules are some program is given as input, and that also given output will be computed. But whereas in this case of machine learning approach, what happens is it gives the output as well as the data. It computes the rule or program, which this is not hand coded by any human. This is coded by the machines. So this can be understandable by the only machines. So that's the reason this machine will take the input. This input it will take here to the data. This rules will be given as input to traditional programming. Then new data is given. This prediction will takes place here. So you see here this part which is known as the training part. The other one is known as the testing part. So now here for the supervised learning, what happens is the data consists of data is a one tuple here. So one is which is represented by the future vector and outcome. So future and outcome we are giving at a time to the input to the supervised learning. Based on that, it will learn the data. Then second one is the unsupervised learning. Here what we need to do is we need to find out in the unsupervised learning case there is no supervisor. So there is no teacher. So it has to find out internal structure. So what is the structure? What is there? You have to infer something from the data. So what is there? What is relationship among the features? So this thing you have to understand here. So this is the unsupervised learning. Then next one is the reinforcement learning. In these two cases, so supervisor and unsupervised, if you see, the outcome is either real number or some relationship or some discrete values are there. Whereas this reinforcement learning, the outcome itself a action. So in the reinforcement learning, what happens is there is a agent is there. He continuously interacts with the environment. He makes some action. Then environment, what it does is environment state will change. Then the state will give, and also it will give the reward. So based on this reward and the state, again the agent will make a decision. So main goal here to identify the policy based on the reward as well as the current state of a particular agent. What is the policy? Policy is nothing but it's a set of actions taken to reach particular goal. There is a set of actions are there. It's not one time. So one time decision making. It takes iterative decision making. It takes some time to reach the decision. So some steps are involved here. That's the reason set of actions to reach a particular goal. That's called the one policy. If this type of policy will have, there is a many number of policies are there. Among this, it has to choose such that its reward is maximized. That overall reward is maximized. For that, it uses the reinforcement learning mechanism. Now, the popular used supervised learning algorithms are the one is the SVM, other one is the K nearest neighbors. So this SVM is the model based learning algorithm. What it does is it just creates, so there is a d dimensional data vector is there. It is separated by the d-dimensional dimensional hyperplane. That hyperplane is created in such a way that there is some margin will be there between these two classes. So between these two classes, this margin will be maximized. So that's the reason we call it as a maximum margin hyperplane also. Now these are two classes. One is the blue is the one class, and this red is the other class. So it will choose this margin. This part has to be maximized in such a way that it will choose this hyperplane. So there is a one problem here in this SVM. It is a generally first assumption here is this is linearly separable. Data is linearly separable. If data is not linearly separable, it's a non-linearly separable, then what we can do is we can project it onto the higher dimensional space. Then when it projects onto the higher dimensional space, then the data become linearly separable. That mechanism is known as the kernel based methods. So there is a kernel based SVMs also there. Now the other one is the K nearest neighbors. So this is instance based learning. Instance based learning here, what happens is there is some training data is there. In the training data, it has a features as well as the outcome is there. A new data comes here. What it will do is it simply compares. After comparison, it will make a decision based on the voting principle. So this is a non-parametric method. There is no parameter involved. So it's just comparing the two features. The distance it will compare. So generally we use the L2 distance. We use the L2 distance. So here one of the problem here is curse of dimensionality, which means that if dimension of the data, the feature dimension is very high, then what happens is all distance all will have the same distance. Okay, it will show the same distance. It's difficult to classify. That's the reason this is one of the disadvantage of this K nearest neighbors. So here, for example, for K is the number of neighbors. So here for K equal to 3K, if you consider, so you are making the distance a small distance you are making. This is the question mark is the test sample. It makes the decision like this. Among this, there is a class 2 is the prevailing here. It's a more is there because it's the shortest distance. Whereas if you consider the K equal to 5, there is a 5 will be there. For the 5, there is a class 1 will be dominant here. So that's the reason we go for the class 1 here. What it does here? It's a very simple algorithm. What it does is it just take a new vector which is test sample and compare distance with all the training samples. Afterwards, what you have to do is you have to arrange in the ascending order. Once you are in the ascending order, how many Ks are based on the K? You take that many distances corresponding that class value, class label. Then how many labels are there? Which is the maximum labels are there that you pick it and give it decision. That's what it happens in the nearest neighbor algorithm. Now unsupervised learning. So here unsupervised learning, there is two things are there. One is the dimensional reduction technique. Other one is the K-means clustering technique. The K means clustering technique. So there is n data points are there, it will cluster into the K clusters. So this algorithm continuously iterates until the members of each cluster do not change. So for example, if you consider here, so calls, you can see the type of calls which comes. You can see that over a period of time, you can see there is some certain time period, there is a large number of calls are coming. If you cluster those things, you'll get to know that these are the time duration where you are getting a large number of calls. At that time, you can think about providing the better service. So there is a place where there is a calls are not all there. In that case, you can think of the can you do something better for the base station. One thing is one thing which the future which is going to come, that the base stations will go into the sleep mode. It will because if it's always active, it sends the transmitting power. That's no use. Now its power is wasted. That's at that time period. What it will do is it will go to the sleep mode. So this kind of research is going on throughout the world. Now next one is the principal component analysis. This is the dimensionality reduction technique. It's what happens is this orthogonal linear transformation will takes place. The transfers to the new coordinate system. It will use the SVM mechanism. Something it will use. Not SVM mechanism. It's SVD, singular value decomposition technique, kind of thing it will use here. Now coming to the wireless communication. So here the main interesting equation which you have to keep in mind is y bar equal to hx bar plus n bar. The y is the channel output which is measured at the receiver, y bar, it's a vector. X bar is the transmitted symbol at the modulated output. This for the baseband equation we are considering. And H is the channel matrix, channel information, channel gain matrix. N bar is the Gaussian noise. It's a Gaussian noise which is generated due to the random motion of the electrons due to thermal motion of electrons. So this is occurs within the receiver. Now this is a very interesting thing. This equation, what happens is from the received symbol, so received vector, you have to predict the x bar. That's what we need to do. Our main goal is to from received symbol, received vector, you have to predict these transmitted symbols such a way that bit error rate has to be minimized as much as possible, which means that we can think of BER easy 10 power minus 5 or 10 power minus 6 depending on the application. Then how will you do this? If you want to do this simply, so you should know the information about the H. So that's the reason what generally people do is they will estimate the channel H. How they will estimate the channel H? One mechanism is the known symbols. First you are transmitting known symbols. From the known symbol you will receive something. From here you will estimate the channel using minimum mean square MMSC estimator, or you can use the ML estimator, anything you can use, and you can estimate here. So this is the first. Once you have estimated the channel, you can use the, if you consider it's a fading channel, generally for the wireless communication we look for the fading channel only. When fading channel occurs, then what happens is there is a ISI will takes place, intersymbol interference will takes place. In order to avoid that intersymbol interference, you have to equalize the received symbols through with this channel information. There first you equalize this and then you use the estimate detection of this X bar you will do. So here you remember this here two important words where I am continuously speaking, that is the one is the estimation, other one is the detection. So we are detecting the symbol, transmitted symbol, we are estimating the channel. This is same thing we can map here, this same thing with that of the algorithms in the in case of classification algorithm, classification and regression algorithm. Classification we can use for the detection purpose, you can use classification algorithm. For the regression algorithms we use for the channel estimation. So why we need to go here for that algorithm? That's one important thing you have to understand here. The first thing is we are assuming that the noise is the Gaussian noise and our Gaussian noise and ergodic process, and we are this the receiver, we are designing the receiver algorithms. So here this minimum mean square error algorithm or ML estimation, these algorithms all are highly complex. It's a one step. Then other thing is that depends on the at that time only, which means that we have a channel is there is a frame duration is there. We are assuming that this frame duration is equivalent to that of the less than that of the coherence time of the channel, which means that the channel does not change over the frame duration. During the frame duration, from the part of time we use this we use pilots or something, we send pilots and estimate the channel. We use that information, channel information, for detecting the transmitted symbol over a one frame duration. But actually this is not the case with the channel. Channel is continuously changing. The algorithm which you are designing, it may not work properly. So we need to design in such a way that it should adapt to the channel variation. That's the reason we go for this is where machine learning algorithm fits here. It adapts to the channel variation. Once you have learned it, it will adapt to the channel variation. It will give the proper result. That's one of the main use. Then second thing is every time you have to estimate the channel, and every time you have to detect it using these complex algorithms. So this thing can be eliminated when we go for the learning algorithm. Once it learns the channel, and once then it easily predicts the SIM transmitted symbol. That's the reason we go for the machine learning. Now, if you see this wireless communication, here also same block diagram is there. There's a physical layer, and link layer, and network layer. So we are using this, we are considering here two places. One is this, in the physical layer always deals with the bits. What happens in the bits? It just takes the bits, how you have to transmit the bits, how you have to receive the bits. It has its own constraints. So BR constraints are there, and maximum transmission rate you have to do. This everything will come here. This type of the modulation and the signal types you have to use, signal shaping, everything will be taken care here the physical layer. So next above layer is known as it's talk with the packets or a frame. So this link layer talk with the packets or frame, and also it's considered it's a decision making. What it does is which type of modulation you have to use, which type of coding you have to use, which type of symbols, which means that which type of I can say how much power you have to use on each subcarrier, which subcarriers you have to allocate to the particular user. This for the one transmitter, one receiver. If it's multiple transmitter, multiple receivers are there, that time this will make this decision is very, very important. So for machine learning for the physical layer, this is where we can use. One is the channel modeling. So in channel modeling, we can use the either clustering algorithms or regression algorithm we can use here. The next one is detection algorithm, which I already mentioned. So here we can use the detection or classification algorithm we can use. Then modulation coding, type of modulation to find out, type of coding you have to find out. This all we can use the classification algorithm. Then channel equalization. Here we can use the either clustering algorithm or regression algorithm we can use. Then localization, we can use the regression or regression algorithm we can use here. Now for the link layer, in the link layer main thing is one is the rate adaptation, which type of rate you have to use for the particular sub channel. This also I'll coming back to this in the next slide. Here we can use this classification algorithm. Access control, which means that which type of channel, who has to access that. Then link quality estimation, this like a channel estimation. So here also we can use the regression or classification. Then frame size optimization, fault identification. These are the all places we can use. And also one more thing we can use, resource allocation problem. We can use the learning algorithms. Some of the applications. So propagation scenarios identification. Here whether it's a rural scenario or urban environment where it has a line of sight or non-line of sight, you have to find out this 4 cases. We can use the k nearest neighbor, SVM, and k means clustering we can use here. Then other one is the user association and cell bias expansion in the heterogeneous network scenario. This is a very interesting concept. The future, which is going to be 5G, they are already started with these heterogeneous networks, and the 6G it will be all are heterogeneous network. Heterogeneous network is nothing but a very simple. There is a small cell networks are there. Small cell networks, which means if you see there's a macro cell is there. In the macro cell environment, there is a micro cell is there, femto cell is there, metro cell is there, pico cell is there. These are the small cells will come. In addition to this, there's a Wi-Fi also there. Depending on the type of cell, its cell size also reduces, and also number of users it serves also reduces here. In the case of this heterogeneous network, what happens is, if you look at this Internet of Things kind of Internet of Things scenario, what happens, there is a some billions of devices needs to connect to the base station. The problem is single base station, it's difficult for it to serve all these things. That's the reason small cells will come into picture. Each small cell has a some set of users. Small cell base stations will serve the some set of small users, small set of users. What happens here? This cell biasing is a very interesting concept. It will increase its cell size according by increasing the transmission, and what it does is it will try to allocate more number of users, try to allocate with associate itself with this more number of users to serve them. So this is known as the cell bias concept. Cell bias expansion will happen here. This can be done using the artificial neural networks and SVM classifier. Then other interesting thing is modulation and classification. So here modulation classification is a very interesting problem. You look here in this problem, what happens is, when you are sending a signal, so let's assume that OFDM scenario, there is a various subchannels are there. Each subchannel has a different channel gains are there. Depending on the channel gains, so if channel gain is very good, you can use the higher order modulation. If channel gain is very low, you can use lower order modulation. So this is the issue. So you are using transmit side, you are using the some different order modulation on different types of channels. So this information has to inform to the receiver, because the receiver doesn't know, receiver only knows these are the set of symbols are available to predict. It just compares, whereas it doesn't know which channel is the which set of symbol. In that scenario, if we could able to design some algorithm, learning algorithm, where it can from the received symbol itself, if it could able to predict it's a QPSK or it's a 16 QAM, it's a 64 QAM, that's very much used. That overhead will be removed there. So this is where this modulation classification will come. So here the this algorithm is the first you are generating this symbol, say the QPSK 16 QAM, 64 QAM symbols you are generating randomly and passing over AWGN channel, and you are receiving the Ys. Now what you are doing, this kind of thing is there, some thousands set is there. So there is a transmit symbol type, means which type of modulation you are used, and Y bar. So Y received thing. So this is this one, Y is called the Y received signal, that Y is called the actually a feature, and the classification type of the symbol which modulation send is there, it's a outcome. So this set you will be considering. Afterwards you are training the model using some classification algorithm. After doing that, what you are doing, you can use that algorithm for the prediction. So this is this for the AWGN channel. Similarly, we can perform same for the fading channels also. Now, next one is the adaptive modulation and coding. As I just mentioned, so in the OFDM system, sub-channels will have the subcarriers will have the different gains are there. Depending on different gains, what we can do is, if channel gain is very good, you can send more information. Whereas if channel gain is poor, you can send the 1-bit information. So here, this what happens is, the way you are applying the type of modulation order, you are changing modulation order according to the that of the channel information or received signal SINR, received signal SNR, SNR or SINR. So based on that, you can adapt the modulation. That's the reason we call it as a adaptive modulation coding. Here coding rate also will be changed there. This too can be done using the KNN classifier or SVM classifier. Now let's understand the channel equalization and signal detection algorithm, what in traditional way happening, and how we can modify using the machine learning applications. 1 second, I want to take a water. Any doubts or question, please ask me. Any questions are there? Madam? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So,
Any questions are there before going to the next topics? So this thing.
they will post in the chat box, sir, in the end, so you can
Okay.
take them at the other
Okay.
sessions.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So now look at this problem of the giant channel equalization and signal detection problem. What happens here? You are this modulated symbol, this baseband data d of t is you are transmitting for a transmitter. So this transmitter, what it will do? It will just modulate again, carrier modulation, and it will transmit over a radio channel. At the receiver side, you have a RF receiver front end, then IF processing is there, matching filter. Of the output, you are receiving the some symbol baseband symbol. This is added with that of the noise, AWGN noise. You are getting the y of t. This is the receiver signal of the receiver. This y of t, what happens is, first you will be learning the channel first of all for the equalization. So once this adaptive weights you are using, adaptive weight algorithm you are using, adaptive filtering, it's we can use either RLS algorithm, LMS algorithm, something we can use. Its weights can be adjusted depending on the this error. This error is, first you are receiving with this, first you'll be using some weights, initializing the weight, and then afterwards what happens is it will make a decision. After equalization, it will make a decision, and this error you are finding out. Based on this error and this decision, these weights are adjusted. This will happen for some symbols. Afterwards, thus it will do the recover the data. So recover data, this is what you will get. Initially you will have the lot of errors will be there. Slowly it will get adjusted to the errors will be reduced to 0. All 10 power minus 5 like BR will come here. So the catch here is this weights you are adjusting, right? Can we use this whole setup with the, if we could able to change this whole setup with that of the machine learning algorithm, that will give the much benefit. Here also you are finding out weights only. This weights itself, weights and everything you are doing. The same thing we can give the for the machine learning algorithm. That's what here it's modified here. There's an encoder modulator. This is the baseband signal you are transmitting. Then this is the channel. This baseband model. So please understand here this baseband model. Previous is the RF sign also there. So from here to here, this baseband we can consider. The same thing here we have. This baseband model is there. After the receiver, what happens is it just trains the model. So whatever receiver signals are there as an input, and this is what modulated symbol was transmitted. This is for the training purpose. So this is this what you are sending here. The same thing what you have received here. This is the corrupted version. Everything received here, and this neural network is trained. After training some time, then it will give the outcome. From there you can do the demodulator and decoder you can do here. So this whole block, this whole thing is changed here. This channel information and decision making, everything is changed here. So here in this you don't need to worry about the channel estimation part also. You can directly use this equalization directly. You will get the better result. The one more advantage is, if you see this MMSE equalizer, it's a very highly complex. So there are this there's a ML equalizer is there. If you look at this frequency domain equalizer for the OFDM system, it's a one-tap equalizer, zero force equalizer we call it as a. It's just a simply, it's just a division. You will do it. Will do it. It has its own disadvantages, but I'm not going to that disadvantages. Okay, that disadvantage is, if channel is very low, automatically the divide by zero error will comes into picture. That's the problem there. So that's why we go for the minimum mean square error receiver. So MMSE receiver is the highly complex. So in order to use those receiver to compute every time channel estimation, everything, so we can directly use this block itself. Moreover, the main advantage here is it adapts to the scenario, so channel situation, channel conditions. So thus is this will performs well. This is the one application. The second application which I want to talk is the reinforcement learning, which is used for the MAC layer application. Now you look here, as I already mentioned, there is a user is there, this agent is there. So based on the current state, and he has some Q value is there, he makes a action. That action will, it's observed by the environment, it will give the reward, and also it gives the new state. what it does is this reward will change the Q value. Like this will continue. It's a iterative process. So the same process we are using here. This Q value we are considering, it's like a probability distribution for the, sometimes for the resource allocation. It has its own thing. So this action he has to make in such a way that this Q value is, overall Q value is the reduced or reward is maximized. So like that it has to choose the policy. Policy means set of actions. So that same thing happens here. This for the intercell interference cancellation. It's a time domain case. So there are multiple pico base stations are there. There's a macro base station is there. Actions, as I already mentioned, pico base station. What it does is it has to bias, cell bias expansion. It will take place. That value. So bias value for the cell range expansion and transmit power for the resource block. Remember, so resource block is very simple term. It's a one time, and if you see this, there is a time is there and there is a frequency is there. If you divide sub channels and time also in the slot, one slot and one sub channel is called as a one resource block. That same thing here. Then second one is the macro base station. His action is the transmit power. Now state of each agent. The state of each agent depends on the SNR condition of the each UEs which it serves. So it has each pico base station. What happens is each UEs will measure the received SNR information on that particular resource block and inform to this pico base station. That information is the current state. Now received cost is the what it has to, whatever cost it is, it depends on the, he has to meet the transmit power constraint as well as the SINR constraint. These two has to meet. Accordingly, this has to change the bias value as well as the transmit power. Same thing with that of the macro base station. So in each iteration, this pico base station selects an action that leading to the smallest value of the Q value for the current state, and MBS select the action in same way. So that's what it happens here. That same thing. So it selects the action in such a way that reward is maximized, I can say. Instead of this smallest value of Q, I can say its overall reward is maximized. So here the received cost, I can say this received cost is it has to meet the transmit power constraint and SINR constraint. Now this is the one example which I have given here. There are two examples I have given, just a theory and a small amount. So next I will be talking about the, so after this slides I will be talking about the other thing. So this is what research I am doing. This current 6G wireless communication which is happening in this Nokia Bell Labs. This work is the AI enabled native air interface. What happens in this whole, there is a transmitter side is there, receiver side is there. You see here, in transmitter there is a encoding, symbol mapping and modulation waveform is there. The receiver side there is a synchronization, channel estimation, equalization, symbol demapping, decoding is there. There is a transmitter side and receiver side. Bits in, bits out. What doing is, in the first step, they are replacing the each individual block with the ML algorithm and trying to test the how this test the performance of the performance of this block. Then after finishing this, second phase is the replacing the multiple processing blocks. They can replace encoding and modulation waveform, and similarly here they will do this various combinations, permutation combinations they will do, and they are doing the multiple blocks. You see here in the multiple blocks, one of the advantage here, this whole channel estimation, equalization, symbol mapping, everything is mapped into the one ML algorithm, which this is what I was talking here. This whole thing will be taken care in the one algorithm, one learning algorithm. This is what happens. Afterwards, the third phase is the whole transmitter block can I replace with the ML algorithm. Whole receiver block can I replace with the ML algorithm. Only just channel exists here. This it's a design part of the air interface. This is the IT collaborative research project which I am involving in this project. This recently started. So this work I am doing. Now these are the references which I used for this talk, and I would like to, before concluding this thing, I'd like to present the one second. So I'd like to present the game theory application. One of the game theory application which is known as the resource allocation in femtocells via GMT. This is what I would like to talk. You look here. So what is this femtocell? So here, this also I would like to give you the overview model only. This I am introducing this concept, what is the femtocell, everything, and I'll be giving the system model and problem formulation. Then I'll talk about the game theoretic solution. This is extension to the voice and data users, and the example, some conclusion I'll be giving here. Most of the data and voice traffic originates indoors, most of them. Nowadays, if you see, because of the apartments or offices, most of the data is originates, most of the calls are happening indoors only. Because of the attenuation from the walls of the buildings, what happens is quality of service of the users is reduced within the indoor users. This is in order to improve that, base station has to transmit the more power. The problem is because of the shadowing effects, what happens is it's very difficult to satisfy the user requirement. That's the reason people are looking at the femtocell option. So there is a different options are there. One is this, I can say, distributed antenna systems also we can use. So, but the problem is there also you have to use there is distributed antenna, you will keep it to each room, and you have to connect that thing with the outside. There is a one more small base station you have to keep outside, and you have to connect with that of the macro cell. So which is the not that much feasible solution. That's the reason we are going for the femtocells. The femtocell, it consists three parts. One is the femto access points are there, then users are there, then femtocell backbone is the either fiber optic or cable connection is there. These femtocells are the very low power, low cost small base stations. These are the very small base station which is deployed by the indoors. Each femtocell serves the some set of users within its vicinity. So the problem is we have to understand these femtocells are deployed within the macro cell environment. That's the first thing. The second thing is how this channel is shared. So you have the some channel available channel bandwidth is there. The spectrum is divided into small subchannels. These subchannels has to be shared among these femtocells. One way of sharing is the orthogonal deployment. There are two ways we can deploy the femtocells. One is the orthogonal deployment or co-channel deployment. In the orthogonal deployment, what happens is there is a macro cell use the separate set of subchannels. Femtocells use the separate set of subchannels. In this way, we can eliminate the interference between the macro and femto. But the problem is spectral efficiency is very low in that scenario. That's the reason we have to go for the co-channel deployment. The co-channel deployment, what happens is the set of all available subchannels is shared among the macro cell as well as the femtocell. This is where problem exists. When this transmission happens on the same set of subchannels, what happens is interference will be increased between not only between the femtocells but also between the macro cell users. So because of this problem, what happens is we have to do the interferences increase, which causes the still degradation of the quality of service. Here I am considering quality of service is the rate requirement of the each user within the either macro cell as well as the femtocell. To overcome that problem, one way of doing is the interference cancellation. That can be done by using the successive interference cancellation method. In that method, what happens is, so it just each user within the femtocell, it has to collect the information about the other users also, which is a very complex process. That's the reason we adapted the problem of the resource allocation problem. In the resources here, what I am doing is we are allocating the subchannel for the each user and controlling the power per subchannel we are doing. So here resource allocation problem is the two types. One is the centralized resource allocation problem. Second one is the distributed resource allocation problem. In the centralized resource allocation problem, there is an entity called the radio network controller which sits somewhere. It collects the information about the all the femtocells and it makes the allocation in consulting with that of the macro cell. The problem here, there are thousands of femtocells are there, which is difficult. First thing is it has the communication complex is increased and also computation complex also increased. So that's the reason we are using the distributed resource allocation problem. In the distributed resource allocation problem, what happens is each femto base station, based on the local measurement, it allocates resources to the its users. That's what happens so as to satisfy its quality of service. Satisfy quality of service, which means that indirectly it reduces the interference because of the reducing the power. That's what we are going to do here. Now, how we can do this problem? So this is the problem setup. Let's assume there are k femtocells are deployed in the macro cell and it shares the n available subchannels. Using, let's assume it will use the orthogonal modulation technique. For example, OFDMA or SCFDMA you can use here. Now the catch here. So power per subchannel. So each let's say that PIK is the ith channel power in the kth femtocell. Now this is the, it has its maximum power constraint is there, PIK bar. Now I'll come to this. Is this PIK bar is given by the macro cell by considering its users requirements and his all his modulation and complexity, everything here of the macro cell. He will inform to the all femtocells that this much power only you have to use. Now rate requirement of the user, there are mk users are there within the femtocell. Each user j in the femtocell k requires rjk as the rate. This much rate is required. And ijk, this is the interference experienced by the user j in the on the channel I within the femtocell k. Now gik, this gik is the, this is for the user j experiences the channel gain within the femtocell from him to that of this femto access point in the femtocell k on the particular subchannel I. This is what it gives here. The next one is the, this is the channel gain for the, this is the I can say this is a cross channel gain. This is for the interference channel gain gi k comma l. It's between the two femtocells L and k experienced by the user in the femtocell k, user j in femtocell k on the channel I. This sigma square is the additive white Gaussian noise channel. Now what I have to do, I have to minimize the, so each femtocell, at each femtocell what we can do is the total power. So I am considering for the downlink scenario. The same thing can be with the small modification we can use for the uplink scenario also. So what it has to do is it has to maximize the total available power in such a way that user rate requirements are satisfied and power constraint is satisfied on the subchannel, and this is this constraint also satisfied. This constraint which speaks that a subchannel I, so AIJK is the subchannel allocation matrix, A is the subchannel allocation matrix AK. It has this AIJ here. Channel I, if channel I is allocated to J, then this value is the 1, otherwise its value is the 0. So this 4, equation 4, this constraint specifies that channel I is allocated to at most one user. That's all. It can allocate to user or it cannot allocate to user. That is the thing here you have to remember. This is this according to this Shannon equation. This AJK is the rate equation I considered here. So this term, this is there now. So sigma, the denominator term, the sigma L not equal to k Gij L comma k Pijk. This is the interference from the other femtocells. This Iijk is the interference experienced from the macro cell users. Now this is looks like a simple optimization problem. So how we can solve this optimization problem? This is the very important thing which we have to keep in mind. Now before going to this, I want to talk more about this optimization problem. So this is the, what are the parameters you have to find out? Variables, you have to find out the variables. One is the power and subchannel allocation matrix. If you see, it has a real variables are there and integer variables are there. So this is a integer as well as the joint integer and a real optimization, a real valued optimization problem, which is highly complex to solve. And second thing here, suppose you solve this problem simply, this will give the information about the at the time instant only for the received interference value. Again, if you solve this, for your case it will satisfy. Then in the next moment, if other guy will solve that also, he has his own powers. Power and subchannel allocation will be there. If you use that thing, then again this constraint may not be satisfied for his thing. So that's the reason this has to go for the iterative way you have to solve. In order to solve this kind of problem, we are going for the game theory approach. So game theory is so I'm considering, as I already mentioned, game theory. This is a tuple we are considering here, formulate tuple. Here set of players are there. Here players are the femtocells. Strategy X, set of X, which is nothing but a power as well as the subchannel allocation matrix, such that its constraints has to be satisfied. Then this phi k of x is the utility function. The utility function which I am considering is the sum of the minimization of the power. So this is what I am considering here. So we have the set of players, strategy space or action space, and phi k is the utility of the each player. What we have to do? You have to minimize this thing or maximizing the negative of this sum. So minimizing this thing or negative, you put negative and maximize this thing. So both are same only. That's why I'm considering phi k is maximizing. So which means that minimizing total power used in the each femtocell k. Once we understand there is some set of problems are there, how to achieve the Nash equilibrium point is the very important thing. So this Nash equilibrium point which I want to talk, yes, so this I'll talk and again I'll get back to that. Nash equilibrium point which says that you see here, so this optimization problem, what happens is it solves this optimization problem. You will get the some equilibrium point. This equilibrium point is sent to the next femtocell will receive, and thus it does the same process. Then again other femtocell will. This go as the iterative procedure, either round robin procedure or at a time they can take it and they will do. This procedure continues at one location, one point. What happens is it stops. That point is known as the equilibrium point or Nash equilibrium point. That's what it does here. This whole thing is represented by this expression. This is known as the best response. The best response says I am maximizing this thing, maximizing this phi k, this utility in such a way that it has satisfied the constraint also. If for all case, for all users, if it does this same thing, then there is a one point. This is known as the best response. What happens is this best response has to be satisfied for the all users, then we'll get the result. So that's what I mentioned here. Now there is the different types of games are there. So I consider here it's a one form of the game is called the potential game. So potential game, it's not a big deal. So you just understand here there are set of utilities are there. If there is if you could able to get some overall utility from combining this utilities of all the players. So if you solve that overall utility, that same result will be obtained by the solving each individual utilities distributively. One is the centralized way. So we are combining the overall utility and get some overall utility and solving the centralized approach. That solution is same as that of the distributed approach of this potential game. So here mine comes as the sum of the utilities which this is the f of x I can formulate. If you formulate like this, then this will give this overall utility. That's the reason this is called the potential. This is also known as the potential function. This overall utility is called the potential function. The potential function is nothing but the function which you obtain from the combining the utility of the all other players. Then the set, you look this strategy set. This set is the compact space. The compactness is nothing but it's a closed and bounded set. So it's a closed set is nothing but so all points should be there within the set, and bounded means it's you consider some bowl, some circle around it. Some circle, if you draw a circle around it, and all point has to fit within that. That's the only thing. And then this potential function f is it's anyway continuous. If this satisfies, then it has a global maximizer. It has a Nash equilibrium point that can be achieved by using the best response correspondence. That's what I am doing here. So each iteration, each femtocell computes that strategy. The strategy here, xk of n is nothing but xk is nothing but a power as well as the subchannel allocation matrix. Once you have this, you can solve that equation and we'll get the solution. So this is the mixed integer programming problem. As I already mentioned, it's difficult to solve, highly complex. That's the reason we are using some better response algorithm. In the better response algorithm, instead of getting this maximizing everything argmax, we are using some epsilon term. It's a maximizer. That's the only thing. So what we are doing is we are randomly choosing this ones and zeros in this subchannel allocation matrix and solving this k using PIK. I'm getting using the KKT condition. Once you do this KKT condition, this both will be iteratively, it will converge after some time. This will lead to the epsilon better response algorithm. Now, this is the all user rate requirements satisfied case. There is a scenario where user rate requirements may not be satisfied. In that case, you have to go for the fair allocation algorithm. In this case, what we can use in the fair allocation algorithm, suppose a user needs 100 kbps, we can't be able to give 100 kbps. Can I give some 75 kbps? That same thing only we are going to say, that fraction of rate, I am going to maximize that. So this can be done by using this algorithm, maximize of alpha k such that sigma equal to 1 to n. That same thing is that this rjk is this instead of here alpha k I am considering here in this equation. You see, in this equation I am giving this some alpha rate I am giving here. That's all. Alpha k is the between 0 and 1. That fraction, percentage fraction I am using here. That same thing I use it there. Nothing else. Then afterwards all are same thing only. Then power constraint, everything is there. So this is the same thing. I'm using the same equation. This I have to maximize this. So this is also a continuous function. But you see here now its strategy space is completely changed. So this two comes into picture. Power constraint and subchannel allocation constraint. This is also compact set, but it is a continuous. It has a mixed Nash equilibrium. So mixed Nash equilibrium, which means that it is a probability of choosing a particular strategy. That's all. So that probability values you have to get it. That's known as the correlated equilibrium. So this can obtain using the regret matching algorithm. So this is highly complex, so which I don't want to go to this. This probability distribution we are choosing. So probability distribution means there is strategy set is there. Now strategy set is there, which is action set is there for each user. There is some set of actions. X1k, X2k, there's some XMK is there. This action. So each action is the power allocation and subchannel allocation matrix. These two will comes into picture. This is a discrete now. So it has its own probabilities are there. These probabilities you have to find out. Once you find out these probabilities, so that probability thing if you give there, based on the probability it will choose the action. That's the only thing. So this is what it specifies as correlated equilibrium. So here what happens, we are using the regret matching algorithm. This I want to say how this probability is updated. That is very important here. This probability updation happens in this way. So for example, you think you are choosing some action. You are now in this position. So you would think most of the time something that if I would have done the other thing, I would have there somewhere. I also think sometimes. So if I would have cracked the IAS exam, I would have the IAS officer. I am not a professor. So like that, I would have think like that. The same thing happens here. He chooses some action. Currently, he chosen already. So xk dash he has already chosen. But he thinks if I choose the other actions, so xk other than the actions if I choose, what happens? That regret I am just comparing. Once I compare this regret, this is sometimes it's a positive or negative. When you sum up this, it will make a 0 or negative you will get. In order to overcome this, we are using the this positive, we are making this here. So based on this regret, you are changing the probability value. That's all. So based on the regret, you are changing the probability of the choosing a particular action. So that's what we are doing here. If you do like this, this algorithm converges here. So this is what I am going to talk. The submodular game, I'll skip it because time constraint, it will take a long time to explain. So again, it will be confusing for you people. So this is the simulation results which I would like to give for this subchannel allocation matrix. Matrix one is the all QoS satisfied case and QoS not satisfied case. So there are 2 femtocells are deployed in the macrocell environment. There are 4 users and 10 subchannels are there. We have considered TDD downlink scenario. The subchannel band is 180 kHz. SNR gap also we considered here. SNR gap we are considering for the modulation coding thing, which that to overcome that other issue that according to Shannon formula. So noise power we are considering here, noise variance, then channels were generated, then maximum power constraint we have given, rate requirements were given in the each femtocells. Once you do everything, so this is what I am getting here. You see here from this allocation thing, utility will be changed accordingly like this. After some time, it will just constant. This is the point which is known as the Nash equilibrium point. Here you can use this particular this power allocations. That's what it says. Power is converged. So here some utility also converged. So at that place, this is the channels we got here. So here it says your first channel is allocated to user 2, second channel is allocated to user 1, then third channel is allocated to user 4, like that. This I am giving here, and this is the power allocated. So if you see, less power only sufficient here. The sum, if you consider, it's one gets some 19 point something, other one is this 23 point something milliwatts we are getting here. Now QoS not satisfied case. The same thing I have generated here. Then if you do regret matching algorithm, so this is the curve we are getting here. This probability, according to probability, I am doing here. So regret matching, one of this problem with this regret matching, this is the part of the reinforcement learning algorithm. So here what happens is, in the reinforcement learning algorithm case, this convergence takes the long time to achieve. Sometimes it may not converge, it takes the very large time duration to achieve. One of the disadvantage of this problem. Because of disadvantage, I modified the problem and used the same kind of game theory model only. Then I got the solution like this. This is called the submodular game problem, which is a bit highly mathematical, so which I don't want to go into that. So this is the allocation which we got it. The same thing we have used for the usage of the I can say the coexistence of both the voice users as well as the data users. So here data user data requirement may not be satisfied, whereas for the voice user data requirement data requirements are satisfied. For that case also I have used here. The same thing we achieved the solution here. So that's what this is the reference for which I got from this. One is this Elsewhere journal, other one is the conference, ANDS conference. Now to conclude this problem which I considered, we have discussed the different types of machine learning algorithms, and also we discussed the channel equalization, resource allocation problem, and also game theoretic model for the resource allocation problem also I have explained. Thank you. Any questions are there? Please ask. I want to give more time for the questions also. This will be very useful. This can go as a good discussion.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I request participants to post your questions, if any, in the chat box.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes.
Sir, my name is Shubho Ghosh. I have a question regarding the utility function of the game theory that you present in the slide. You have mentioned the that is minus power, summation of power.
Yes.
So why are you using that is negative power?
So it's negative I considered for maximization, that's all. Maximizing the negative power or negative the utility is equal to minimizing the utility. That's the only thing I used.
So are you trying to maximize the power level?
No. Negative of the power is equivalent to, you see here, this I'm using negative here. So this maximizing is equivalent to negative of the particular function is same as the minimizing the particular function. I am not maximizing the power. This is utility. Negative of the utility. Both are same.
Okay, and in this power, that is P of jk, only the mobile device or only the femtocell base station considered? Any types of like digital to analog converter, any types of antenna power, is this inbuilt in this power?
No. It's a separate. It's a transmission power.
Only for transmission power.
A transmission power.
And what about the rest of the power?
That rest of power I am not considering it. That comes that different here. This is so how this interference will be affected. Interference affected by on the transmission power only. That's the reason I am considering transmission power.
Okay. And suppose this is for utility function, we consider only the transmission power. And
Yes,
if we calculate in mathematical model, when I write a paper and in the mathematical model, if we calculate the power, then we calculate all the powers, that is transmission power, analog to digital converter, and antenna power, all are mentioned in this portion.
No. These are not required. So that's what I am saying here. This is for the only transmission power which is allocated by the femto base station to its users. Remember.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Because if you see this analog to digital conversion power, these all are depending on its processing speed. That doesn't affect the interference on the other user.
Okay.
Hope. Yeah.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, how to calculate the gain of the uplink channel or the downlink channel, sir?
Oh yes, this gain can be. This is the gain is actually each user estimates and send back to the femto base station. So channel gains. So channel gain is nothing. It's a power gain. Yeah, channel estimation will happen. Then afterwards, it will just square of that. It will send here. This channel estimation thing. This has to do by the using this various mechanisms are there. Channel estimation can be done by using the one is the pilot information. From there, it will estimate it.
Sir, we have to include the path loss also and the.
Yes, that also you have to include.
Is there any specific formula, sir?
I just considered here generally. So, but you have to include that link budgeting formula is there, na? There you can.
The frequency of going to this also is reduced.
Hello.
ನಮ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಹೆವಿ.
Yes, madam.
ಅವಾಗ್ಲೇ ಅದು ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗೋದು. ನಾ ಹೇಳದ್ನಲ್ಲ ನಿನ್ಗೆ ನನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಟ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ and almost 8 pads per day I used to use. That is there, no pads.
Hello.
ಅದು ಲೀಕ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು I just wear one for protection ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ನಮ್ ಪ್ಯಾಂಟೀಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. wear one for protection, that's all.
Sorry, sir. Anita ma'am, can you mute yours?
ಅದ್ ಒಳಗ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಂಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ.
Okay. Any questions? Any more questions from participants?
Sir?
Yes.
Similarly, how we can calculate the interference gain, sir?
Oh, yes. I want to come here. This interference gain everything. So let me tell you here. This is a very interesting thing which I missed to explain. I'll explain now here. This what happens is at the receiver side, what it does is this algorithm itself completely calculates the interference plus noise power it computes. That's all. It just computes interference plus noise. At a time it measures. Each user measures interference plus noise. He don't bother about the interference gains. It don't care. It just measures two important information. One is this GI, JK. This is the gain from the user to his base station, and user identifies interference plus noise power. This information measures on jth user measures on the I subchannel and send back. That's all. Based on this only, this power will be computed. It doesn't require to calculate this interference gain. That's the thing. Here I gave for the simulation purpose, I gave for the simulation purpose, I gave as an input. But this is not at all required. My algorithm runs on the only two things. So interference plus noise power plus channel gain. This is called the local information. This is measured by the each user J on the ith subchannel and sent back to the femto base station. Based on this information, it will do the all allocation.
Sir, one more question, sir.
Yes, madam.
Whether the power allocation for the downlink and the uplink, it will be differing, sir. How to calculate the power allocation?
Yeah, it's for the power allocation downlink I did it now. That same thing will happen here also. But for the uplink, this what happens is that user requirements are there separately. It will do. So here in this equation, what happens is this is for the macro means femto base station it will consider for the downlink scenario. Whereas for the uplink scenario, what it does is it just separately it will first allocates the channel to the particular user. On this particular set of sub channels, it will do the allocation parallelly. It will compute that power will be sent back to the user. That same thing, everything I mentioned in my paper, research paper. You can see in that paper. I mentioned both.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I did simulation for this downlink scenario, but both same, almost the same algorithm works for the both cases.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, madam.
So why do we go for KKT always, sir, for simplifying any complex constraints? KKT like a kernel. For simplifying, we take reference like using KKT, we get this minimization expression or optimization equation.
Yes.
So what is the purpose for going for that KKT only?
So KKT give the better solution always for the minimization of f of x under the x constraints are there. Then KKT conditions will give the better. That's the automation problem. General solution is arrived most of the time. That's the reason we use this KKT condition.
For both the minimization as well as maximization problem.
Yeah, both case. Yes, both case. Just the way you are formulating Lagrangian will change. That's all.
Okay, sir.
Any other questions?
Any other questions from participants?
Sir, here the subchannel AIJK is given 1 and 0 if the subchannel is assigned.
Yes.
It is 0 otherwise.
Yes.
Here, if you see the condition 4, sir.
Yes, condition 4 here, what happens is, this is the, any subchannel I is allocated at most to one user. That's what I am considering here, this condition 4. You see here, for the J users, J equal to 1 to MK, AIJK is there. Na? Here, we said here, this if it's only at most, it has to allocate to one user. That's the reason. This fourth condition I have considered here. That's the only thing. This is for the within the femto cell. It allocates the orthogonal allocation of the subchannels.
Sir, if we are running the program for subchannel assignment, what will be the different outputs, sir? For example, I am considering the number of subchannels as 20.
Okay. So what is number of users?
Subcarriers, number of users.
Number of subchannels you have considered 20.
Yes, sir.
What is number of users you want to consider? That matrix you have to consider. Column is the matrix. Column is the users. Row is the subchannels.
Okay, sir.
So always you have to consider this each row that summation should be 1. Less than or equal to 1 you have to consider. Accordingly you have to generate a subchannel allocation matrix.
Okay, sir.
That randomly you can do it. Randomly you can generate like that, and then you can substitute in this expression and you will do the power control.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
This game theory for wireless network is actually a one course. So it's good someone can organize a course, then we can think of it. I have a plan to organize here in university. I have to check it all possibilities because it has run for not a 1 week course. So it has run a 1 semester course, to be honest. So that's the reason I did not go deep into that mathematics.
It's there in NPTEL, I think, sir.
Huh? Yeah, NPTEL course.
NPTEL is there, I think, sir.
Yes, game theory course is there. NPTEL game theory course.
They
They are covering one formulation. So here I have covered different types of games.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have one more question. So
Yes.
how can I match game theory with some machine learning or some machine learning features?
Yes. So this game theory here, I did one problem. Do you see here? The reinforcement learning which I used here, na? One problem here. This thing, regret matching algorithm. It's part of a reinforcement learning. So like this we can do. It's an iterative process. We can compute the solution here. This is what I did here. So like this game theory will be matched with that of the learning algorithm. So reinforcement learning algorithm.
And what are the features of this algorithm?
So features of the algorithm is it will give the solution for the reaching the Nash equilibrium point. This also iterative process. That same thing what's happening in the reinforcement learning. That same thing happens here also. That's what.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any more question? Okay.
Oh.
I
Any
think
other question? Yes, madam.
Okay, sir. We can conclude. I think we don't have any questions.
Yes, thank you.
You want to say anything, sir? Or okay.
So this is game theory is a very interesting topic. Those who want to look into this game theory, which I want to say is they have to look at this advanced calculus, which is known as real analysis. They have to understand and optimization. So these two are a prerequisite for the understanding the game theory concept. Some part of probability theory also required. So once you understand, please look into that course. Game theory course is already available in the NPTEL. You can look into that. Once you understand that, you can start looking into this various some research papers, which is, I guess I have given here some papers. You can look into that. So that papers, and you can start working in that direction. And how to map this machine learning with game theory, that needs it's actually both are some different dimensions which you have to map very carefully. So you have to understand machine learning completely, then mathematical models, everything. So you can see one thing is very interesting term is in the machine learning, we are using gradient descent algorithm most of the time. So that same thing we can use for case of this game theory also. Can we use that gradient descent kind of learning algorithm here also to achieve the solution? This we have to study. So that's what I want to say here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was an excellent and informative session. And thank you for sharing your concepts from your ITU research project, that is AI in air interview. And also we got to learn many applications from your gate theory applications like resource allocation, fair allocation, and femtosecond access points and all. I hope you have given us scope to explore more in this area. Thank you very much, sir. Have a good day.
Yes, thank you, madam.
Thank you.